She's a defender of donuts. 3 meals are faster than none. She'll make it all good in your neighborhood. She'll make sure we have loads of fun. Who will help Lily? Who will catch Billy? It's Trixie the Tricycle Trooper.
Hi FlossTube, my name's Jody and I'm Trixie Tricycle, both here on YouTube and also on Instagram. This is a channel about cross stitch and crafts, and today I actually have a ton of stitching and progress to show you because it's been so long since I made a video. Thank you so much for all the feedback about bumblebees. I still haven't seen one yet. This is the time of year when they start to emerge, and the bees, the bumblebees that emerge are about the size of a quarter, and it's the queen bee that comes out after the winter. And she's a brand new bee. She's gonna go out and look for a new place to build a nest for this year's bumblebee colonies. And so we started a hashtag, and it's 2022 Bumblebee. So in your area, if you've seen one, feel free to take a picture and post it to that hashtag and tag me. And we'd love to see when those are starting to come out, because that always seems to be a really good, optimistic harbinger of spring. And we had some crocuses and tulips coming up this last week, and then we got a little bit of a cold snap here in the Seattle area, and so it's been in the 20s overnight, which has kind of stopped everything in their tracks. The weather has been sort of typical. I'm looking at Ella, so the loud drinking dog. She is she's kind of moving around today. So this last few days she's been struggling with some, it's called idiopathic vestibular disease. And essentially what that means is just that she's got some inner ear disturbance, some vertigo, and some balance stability when she's trying to walk around. And it's not uncommon for older dogs. According to the vet, it's not uncommon for older dogs to get that. In some cases it can be a result of an ear infection or other issues, but that's not really the case for her. And it tends to be a transient, it just sort of comes and goes. And the treatment for it is to give her Dramamine, so motion sickness medication, just to get over at the drugstore. So it seems to be improving a little bit, but I'm kind of watching her because she's she's wobbling and thinking about maybe going to get a drink of water. That's the direction that she's facing, but we'll see if that's the case. I might actually notice it this time. You guys were hilarious with your comments. It's, you know, the funniest thing is that I completely did not hear it when it was happening last time during my video. I went back and I was editing and was like, that is so loud. Not only is it so loud, but it's going on for so long. It just kept going and going, and so anyway. Okay, so we'll go through, I started a bunch of things. And I did some works in progress. I did some crocheting, so I'll show a little bit of that toward the end. I'm not going to show a lot of new charts or haul. I'll show a couple at the very end. But we're going to go through, and I'm really going to be focused on trying to keep this under an hour today. I say that every video. Oh, you're gonna come up? Hi, this is Charlie. Hi, Charlie. You say hi? Hi, Charlie. Oh my gosh. This video is going great so far. Okay, alright, we're gonna stop I just had my husband come get the dogs so that they will be in a different room tonight. It's just a little too much going on. Too manage. All right. So, there were a few good questions that I got. Somebody mentioned something about, on Instagram, I showed one of my starts, and I don't even remember how to floss tube. Okay, so this is going to be a little jumbled because right now the way I've got everything set up is it's not necessarily in starts and whips separate. I've got a stack of things over here and I've got a stack of things over here. And so I'm going to kind of go in the order in which they are stacked. So we will start on this side. So I was going to make a video yesterday, and my next door neighbor's house burned down last year in March, and their contractors are finally putting the roof on the reconstructed house, and so that happened to be what was happening when I was trying to make a video. And my wall of the craft room basically is right next to that side of our house where the construction was going on, and so it was just going to be too noisy. So instead, I started this chart. So this is Yellowbird by Lottie Da, and it's small. It's only 57 by 67 stitches, and it uses a single thread. It uses this Gloriana Floramel, and the color is birch brown. So it's just a variegated silk. It's very pretty. And I decided that one of the things that I bought over the course of, since my last video, because I'm getting ready this year to go to some retreats, is a portable light. And I kind of wanted to test it out to see how it worked, and turned that on, started looking through that, and thought this might be a good opportunity to try to teach myself how to stitch in hand, because this pattern, if you look at it closely, you can see that the border is somewhat predictable. It's just got that little scalloped edge, and it's small enough that I'm probably going to turn it into a pillow like it is here, and it's just not going to be, it's good practice. It's something to practice on. So that's what I did. And I've got some thread hanging on here. It's pretty cool. So with only about 2 hours of stitching, this is how far I got. And this is, I think, this is on a 46 count. I think this is a piece of 46 count. And I don't remember the colorway. There's a mistake on this side over here. Right there. Anyway, it's fine. But that's been kind of fun. That's the back. It's way faster. Now, I really like working on scroll frames. We know this. We had this whole conversation last time on my video. I like working on scroll frames. I like the tension. I like to be able to see most of my stitching. I really don't like to press things, even though I repressed this. Holding on to this created that rumpled mess for me. I'll still do it, and I want to practice at it and get better, because I think it is much, much faster. I think, Mama Loves You GB, I think, stitches in hand, and I'm always amazed at the progress that she has in her videos. Like, she always seems to stitch things so quickly. And the same thing with Ellen Reed. I think she stitches in hand. Everybody that stitches fast stitches in hand. So it's not all about speed, but I think for monochromatic patterns that are relatively small like this, it's a good opportunity to practice. And so that's what I did with this one. So that's one of my starts. Yellowbird. La-di-da. The next one on this pile is a chart that a lot of people are stitching at this point. This is Mrs. Campbell, 1805, and that's Hands Across the Sea, and this is a very bad printout of the chart. I'm using DMC, and I am stitching this on, let me look. I believe this is on a piece of 40 count mushroom. And that is how far I got. It's really fun. And again, that's just the DMC, and it is one strand over 2 threads. And I love it. I like the little back stitch interspersed with the cross stitch on the border. It just feels, it's nice, and it feels really structured. This is I think this is a Zweigart, and so it's a little bit firm, which I also like. So that is start number 2. You've already seen the Rose and the Giant Pear. One of you asked about the color conversion, and so in the description I'll list what the called for Auvert-Soie silk color number is and what I'm using instead. So these are the leftover silks. A lot of them are leftover silk from G. Leger, and then a few others that I pulled from stash from other kits that I had. And so I just wanted them to be a little more muted, and so this is the result. And I really don't think I've stitched on this since the last time that I showed this. I may have just added a little bit or finished the bee, but because I couldn't remember, I'm just going to show it anyway. This is on a piece of 46 count light nougat, I believe, by XJU Designs. And that is coming out really pretty. A lot of people have these finished, and it's gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So, another one that I started that I've had kitted up for quite a while and had wanted to start for some time. I finally just decided to go for it because I had everything. And one of the things I was waiting for, this is actually really ironic. So I talked all about last time different types of scroll frames, what works, some different things to consider and think about. But I had ordered a Millennium frame from the UK in November of 2020. So last month, January 2022, so 14 months, it arrived 2 days after I made my video. Worth the wait. They are very transparent on their website about the fact that you're gonna wait, and these are the scroll frames that Nicola uses. If you watch Hands Across the Sea, if you watch her videos, she's got quite a few of those, and I'll show it to you in just a moment. But Teresa Little Stitcher had used it before, and that's where I originally saw it, and I really liked how large, how broad it is, and the adjustment, how you can tighten it. It's very consistent. So now it is my new favorite scroll frame, of course, because they're difficult. But they are really worth it, and they are worth the wait. And but just keep in mind, it is a single person operation, and they use sustainable materials, and don't expect to get all kinds of updates and, you know, check-ins about, hey, this is where you're just not going to get that. And so if you're impatient, or if you, and I don't even mean that in a negative way, you do pay in advance. So I know that some companies, you can order something, but they won't charge your card until the time that they deliver it. That's not the case here. You're pre-ordering something, and so, you know, I paid for this in November of 2020, but the good part about it is then you get it. It's like having an extra Christmas gift, and they really are worth it. They're very well made. They're very, very useful. But anyway, this chart, the Spanish Mystery Sampler by Shakespeare's Peddler, is enormous. It's enormous. And I wanted something that I could see the entire chart on. The stitch count for this, let's see, hold please. Okay, it is nearly 500 stitches wide and about 320 stitches tall. So 500 approximately by 320. I'm stitching this on 46 count. And these bars on this Millennium frame are 36 inches wide. And so from the two screw ends, God, this is so big I can't even show it to you. Okay, so there is the portion that I have done so far, and it's so big it's gonna knock over my lights. I love it so much. So I'm using all of the called for flosses, and with the exception of the white on those flowers, and you can see the first 4 flowers next to the border, they're, again, the white ones are one color, and then the remaining are slightly brighter. And I think because of the color of the linen that I chose, this is the replacement silk that I chose is just showing up a little bit better. So I am replacing, it's an NPI. The original called for, and everything else I'm using that Teresa, Shakespeare's Peddler, called for. So this is the original, this is the NPI color, and this is the Auvert-Soie silk. And the difference is just in the finish. The Auvert-Soie, it's just slightly fluffier when it comes off the skein, and it just shows up a little bit better. You can see how there's just like a little bit, it's not dull, but the NPI silk is just a little bit flatter color wise, and this is just a little brighter, and so I feel like it's just showing up a little bit more, and it's subtle. I mean, they are kind of ghost stitches on the original antique, but that's what I decided to do, was to go with that as the option, and I really like it. So, you know, and again, this is a Millennium frame, so this side, I'll show you this side of it. These tighten, so this is like a screw that pushes the top and bottom bars apart from each other. And then the loading mechanism, you can see, it's just right in here, there is a dowel rod. and you put your fabric into that slot, and then the dowel rod slides in and holds it in place, and then you roll it. And then these have sort of a predetermined height that you don't want to get too much, you don't want it to get too stretched out. But it provides really nice tension. So when you turn this, it's basically pushing those two things apart, and it's giving you even tension all the way across your project. So once I got this and I had the ability to put a whole piece of fabric and work my way across the top, that's what I opted to do. So the other thing, and someone asked me about this when I posted a photo on Instagram, if you look really closely, you can see on the edge there is a kind of a, right here is a dashed line. And someone said, oh, you're gridding your project. So yes and no. When I have a project that's that big, because I've made mistakes before, and with G. Leger that was one of them, I got to the bottom and I realized that I was really cutting it close in terms of how much fabric I was going to have to frame it. And I framed tight. So, I mean, it was really close to the bottom. I had to add a piece of muslin and then stretch it around the foam board when I was framing it. And so I just don't want to get into that, especially when you're stitching something that's that large. For me, I just want to make sure that I have the stitch count correct. And so I take the time. I use a piece of this Sulky. This is Sulky, it's called Sliver. And hopefully that will focus. So, Sulky Sliver Metallic. It is a single strand, and it feels, it's not metal. It feels like a plastic, like a plasticized. It's just that it's got that metallic sheen to it. But it's not rough at all. It feels like if you have dental floss, that's the ribbon type of dental floss. Imagine that, but like 1/10 of the size. So it's flat, it's very, very slick, and it slides right out of the fabric. So this was again, this is 46 count. I had that running all the way across the top. And if you look really, really closely at the top of, like above the top border, you're not going to see any holes where the fabric was, or where that sliver was. So there are no residual holes left. Now, I don't use that to count down where my stitches are supposed to start if I'm starting kind of in the middle of a, I only use that at the beginning just to say, okay, I'm going to go under 10 stitches, not 10 threads, but I'm going to go under 10 stitches. So in this case, it's 20 threads, and I'm going to go over 10 stitches, and then under 10 stitches, and then over 10 stitches. Now, if I am off by a thread or so in one of those over-unders, it doesn't matter. All I'm trying to do is determine the overall length of the piece of fabric before I cut it or place it to make sure that I have enough. So on my next work in progress, I'll show you the same thing. So I did the same thing on this one, and it's a little easier to see. So it's just over, under, and it's 10 total stitches. And again, I'm not using that as a guide to tell me where I should start my stitches at. I mean, yes, it's close to the border, but that's not, I'm not using it as a chart counting or a pattern counting measurement like you would in a Heaven and Earth design where you've got everything gridded out. So all, every single 10 squares, and so it's got to be really, really exact because you're placing threads and parking related to your 10 stitch grid lines. If you're a Hay or a Heaven and Earth design full coverage stitcher, again, this is just, it's to give you peace of mind to know that you've got enough fabric to finish. So that's what this is, and that's what I do. And it does take a little while. You know, it's like you just want to start, and it's worth it, because then you make sure that you've got enough margin and then you start in the right place. And so, all right, so that that I just showed you obviously was this lavender and lace. That is Enchanted Alphabet, and I am stitching that on a piece of 40 count gossamer by Picture This Plus, and I'm using these luscious silks that comprised Ymir's Almond M&M's Advent box for December. Those pretty. I talked all about those the last time, and so I am stitching that alphabet one letter each. So I'm using one of those colors for each of the letters, and it's coming out super cute. I love it. And because I have 2 of these charts, that was our giveaway. And so random comment picker, the winner of that chart is Patty Altier. So, so Patty is the winner, and the word was letter. I think 59 of you guys commented. 59 of you commented. So Patty, I will respond to your comment, and if you are on Instagram, just send me a direct message with your mailing address, and I will get this chart out to you so that you can stitch it. So, all right. Next work in progress that I'm going to show you is this, which is Elizabeth Isles. This is the birthday stitch along for Laura Duet, who is the Serial Starter from Brendan the Serial Starter. And this is the one that, for whatever reason, whether it's the filter I have on the lens or the colors, but the bright blue shows up as seafoam green, even though it's not seafoam green. So it just, for whatever reason, these colors tend to get kind of blown out. But this is a conversion that I did using Leo and Roxy floss. And Leo and Roxy is an overdyed floss. So Leo and Roxy, they are an exclusive to Evertote in Canada, and so I did this conversion, and they are available as a grouping of flosses from Caroline at Evertote, and so it's on their website. But it's coming out really pretty. So I think the last time I showed this, I didn't have the second planter pot done. So I filled in the leaves, did the heart, and then started working up the flower stems. And those are some tiny angel legs floating out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, the bird's done. Just need to put the flower in his mouth. I love it. It's been really, really fun to stitch on. Okay, last one on this side, and that is a new start. Again, another new start. So I've had this kitted for probably a year, and that is Mirabilia Raven Queen. So I just love this. I think it's so beautiful. I know Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff just finished this not too long ago, and it's just gorgeous. So, I am using a 32 count Be Stitch Me fabric. This is the color Lunar, and that is the progress that I have so far. And I just started this, I don't know, 3 days ago. So there's a little bit of petite, there's like some Krynic in there, a little bit. It's hard to see, it's not really very shiny. But right at the top of that column. So I'm using 2 strands over 2 threads of the called for floss. And there are a couple, there's only one thing that I'm going to substitute, and that is for the black on the, if you look at the photo of the chart, there's quite a bit of, you know, the black in her dress and the ravens. There's a little bit in the border, which doesn't really matter, but because of the coverage that I would like, I started using 2 strands of 310 DMC, which is what it calls for, and it just wasn't doing it. 3 strands was too much. 2 strands wasn't enough, and so it was leaving spaces, and it just didn't give the coverage that I wanted to. So instead, I am going to use, and that's what I started here with that crow. The crow is 3 strands of Gloriana in the color India Ink. And so it just, the strand size just works better. It just fits. And sometimes you have to do that. You've got to do a few test stitches just to see how the coverage is going to be. And the challenge that you run into, as most of you, you know, that have been stitching for a long time, is like you start using too many strands, and then it gets too, it fills in the threads too much, and then it pushes them out of shape, and then it's really hard to fit the other ones in there, and so you end up having to really work to get them in and out. It feels like 3 strands of this Gloriana is just about perfect for this particular weave of fabric. And everyone's going to be, you know, it's all going to be just a little bit different. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll see what happens when I get to the dress, but I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. Everything else I've got is called for. Isn't that pretty? Brandy does such a beautiful job with her over dyeing, over their linen dyeing. I'm in her Fabric of the Month club, and now I get 40 count, but for a while I was getting 32, and it's perfect for some of these Mirabilia charts. So, and this is the stack of called for flosses for that pattern, and they are beautiful. So I think that the pink, it's kind of funny because I was looking through the chart, and the pink, I think it's like literally 4 stitches for her mouth, which I may not even use. And I have all the beads. So, and what will happen is, I was chatting with somebody the other day, and I was saying, like, I'm going to get through this whole thing, I'm going to stitch all of it, and then I'm going to be like, oh, I have to do back stitch and beads. But and I only make that face because I'm not great at it. I'm not great at beads. I tend to get that invisible thread on the back, and it just gets all like don't look at the back of a Mirabilia that I'm stitching, because it's not great. Okay. So Hester Van Dorn by Carriage House Samplings is a whip. This is birthday stitch along for D's 20 stitches, and the hashtag is Flip D the Bird Sal. And that's where I am so far. And again, this may be one that I have not made much progress on since my last video, but I don't remember, and so I just am showing it again. This fabric is 32 count. It's either 32 count or 36 count Black Pearl by Jody of Steel City Stitchers. And it's got just a very, very light iridescence on the front. It's very pretty. And then I'm just using let's see. I'm using Leo and Roxy Vampish. And at some point I may incorporate a little bit of Lucille. To be determined. We'll see. And I mentioned this before, but Leo and Roxy, they have a floss club now that you can join. So go to the Evertote website and you can sign up for their Floss of the Month club. And I'm not sure if they have spots still or if they're going to be on if they are going to have like a wait list. But I know they just started that up this last month, and they have, I believe, brights and a neutrals, or you can get both each month. And so take a look at that, and it's really exciting, and I think that you will really, that's a great way to get to try out some of the flosses and to work with them, because they do feel different. They feel really nice. They just stitch nicely, and they're a nice thickness, and I love them. I am a big Leo and Roxy fan. Okay. I did a little work on Elizabeth Addlesey by Hedgerow Stitching. And this is the stitch along for Betsy Klager. And the hashtag was Stupid Tumor Cell. And that was for her Acoustic Neuroma. Which she's rock star and working through. And so that's almost done. I just need to do the bottom and the other squirrel, and that will be done. And I think I'm just going to put it in a frame. So that's my plan. Another work in progress, and I think I did a fair amount since the last time you've seen this. This is Anne Grimshaw, 1818, and this is where I am at with that. So I'm using one strand of Leo and Roxy chalkboard, and it's gorgeous. Every time I pull this chart out to look at it, I want to start it, or I want to work on it. But there have been other things that I've been working on. So you can see across the top, now that I've reached the other side, I can take out that marker strand of Sulky, because I know that I have enough fabric. This was part of Jacob's Black Sampler November. That was the hashtag that he used, and it was just stitch any sampler using black floss. And like I said, I am using Leo and Roxy chalkboard, and it's got a slight variegation to it. You can see it's just a little bit lighter. It's almost like an antiqued black floss. I made this cabochon, this floss bling, out of one of Shakespeare's Peddler's Kitten Stitcher sells. They're little cards, and they're called Holy Molies, and you can use them as floss drops. And I just used a 1-inch punch and punched out a part of that Holy Moly that was the Anne Grimshaw Holy Moly, and then put that on as a floss bling. So, in case you're wondering, I made it myself. I made that. All right, a few more. And I will show this one to you on my iPad. Jacob from Modern Porco Birdier again. This is one of his charts. It's called The Hound and the Hare. And it's a monochromatic. And I hadn't worked on this one for a while, and after my last video I kind of got a wild hair. See what I did there? Terrible dad jokes. And I just popped it into some scroll frames and started working on it. So I think I had only gotten down to maybe halfway across this line, and so all of this I did over the course of a week or two. I'm using Schoolhouse Red by the Gentle Art. And this is a piece of, is it 40 count beige? Or 40 count cream, Zweigart. 36 or 40 count, I can't remember. I'll put it in the description. But I'm really liking it. And I bought, I don't have it out, but I bought a little, oh wait a minute. No. I found, it's like a magnetic, it's two little pieces that sandwich a piece of fabric. You can like, I'm going to do just a little hem stitch around the edge of that piece. And then it's got two little wood, you can hang it up. I'm doing a terrible job of describing that. I'll show you when it's done. I give up. Technically, it would kind of look like this. It would just hang, except for that instead of being a scroll, it's a piece of wood. It's like a little sandwich, two pieces of wood that will sandwich the fabric in between. So the bottom piece is just a weight to sort of hold the fabric down, and the top one holds it, and then it's got a little string that you can use to hang it up. That's it. Do you even floss tube anymore? Okay, also on my iPad, because I am actually doing this one and using Pattern Keeper, I decided that I really wanted to do a full coverage. I wanted to do a great big heaven and earth design fabric, and something about just having a single color to work on felt cathartic, I guess. So I went through, and I've been drawn kind of to this. I don't know about you guys, but I get sucked down the rabbit hole of looking at buildings and signs of human presence that have been kind of taken over by nature. There's something really melancholy but also kind of cool about it. And so whether it's a building that's been sort of overgrown by vines, or areas where for whatever reason people just don't live there anymore, and the idea and how quickly that can happen in some cases, humans are cool, but when it comes to the planet, they really need it. The planet doesn't need us, right? Yeah, we need the planet. The planet doesn't need us. Anyway, I love this. This is by Amy Stewart, and this is called Secret Carousel. And if you look closely, there is a deer and a bear and a fox. There's foxes playing on the carousel. And it's just something about it I don't know if you guys do this sometimes too, where you just like flip through Heaven and Earth Design's website and just look at their charts. And what I've learned is that, you know, obviously for me, I don't want to just start one and then not finish it because they're so time consuming, but I couldn't stop looking at this one. I kept coming back to it and looking at it and zooming in and looking at it. And so, you know, after I did that for a few weeks, I felt like, I think I'm going to get this one and I'm going to do it. And then you start looking at it a little bit more closely and you realize like the reality sets in. So if you know, those corners of the dark sky are 939. And it calls for 50 skeins of 939. There are over 400,000 stitches, and 100,000 of them are 939. So this is 1,200 stitches. This is a tiny scraping of a start. But this is the piece of fabric. That's how big. So this little piece of thread is where this upper corner will be, and then all the way down at the bottom, that's where the bottom corner will be, and then all the way across is the other corner. It's gonna take me a decade. I'm okay with that. Do you think, I don't know about you, but I feel like Stitchers, maybe, do we make these like really long goals just because that helps us to think like, well, I can't, you know, nothing can happen to me while I've got all these unfinished projects, right? I have to be able to finish them. Anyway, I just love it. I think it's really, really pretty. And I am using Pattern Keeper for that. I have a little Android tablet that I'm using, and it's really helpful. So that is my Heaven and Earth Design new start. So the starts that I had, let's see, I started, did I start 5? 1? So I started Spanish Mystery Sampler, the Raven Queen, Secret Carousel, Yellowbird, and Mrs. Campbell. So yeah, I think 5. And I had toyed with the idea, because I'm turning 52 this year, that I would have 52 starts. I'm not convinced that I'm not going to do it, but I don't know. We'll still let it stew for a little while. I have so many things right now that this feels like way more than I'm normally, that I normally have, that I'm just excited to be working on these things. So, was that the last one? I do think that was the last one. Okay, so in addition to this, watching TV, the way that we've got our downstairs set up, it just doesn't really, it's not very conducive. We have a big, like a kind of a sectional. It's just nice to be able to sort of spread out and throw a blanket on and watch TV. And because I can't see my stitching without readers and a magnifier, I have to do both. It just is a lot to bring my stitching out in front of movies. And so Jason and I have been watching shows. We've been just following a couple series, and that's been really fun. But what's great to do out there for me is crochet. So I showed you last time this really gaudy blanket, and I got another couple skeins of yarn, I guess. Is that what? Yeah, skeins of yarn. So finished up that row with the seafoam green. So it's pretty good size at this point. I mean, it's like, you know, it's starting to be a legit blanket. It's warm when you're stitching and I'm working on it. The dog, Charlie, he burrows underneath it while I'm working on it. So he's like, it's good, it's fine. You don't need to do anything else on it, but I have a few more. I want it to be just a little bit longer, so that one will be done in not too long. And ages ago, I think my very first video, I showed you guys the granny squares that I was working on. And I decided to get, there's my outlet. I decided to get industrious and start stitching them together. So that meant that I had to choose like a border color for all, you know, because I had sort of those like 70s kitchen colors as the interior. And I decided to make the border and all the yarn that was going to connect them together black. So, and Lori Holt has a really good tutorial on how to connect granny squares, and that's the option that I'm using. So this is where we're at. Yay! So I have to sew in all my ends still, and I've only got so I have 5 rows of 10, and I think I want to make it at least 10 by 10. So I'm gonna have to, you know, double what I have right now. But so, and this is just 100% acrylic yarn. The other one that I'm using is a merino wool. So this will be nice because it'll just be easy to throw in the wash and let it air dry. But anyway, it's coming out pretty cute. I'm really happy with it. I like the colors, and it reminds me of, you know, ones that I had around when I was a kid. I think my mom's mom had a granny square blanket that had black around the edges of it, but I really like that. I think it looks nice. So anyway. All right. A couple of things that I did pick up. Christy, she has an Etsy shop called Christy's Corner. She does the temperature charts. I've mentioned her channel before. She's awesome. She does really cool work with different types of threads, and she's got some weaving that she's doing with all different kinds of materials, and it's really, really cool. So she did a temperature chart last year that was a bookshelf, and so each row was a month, and the books were stitched in colors of the books were stitched basically in the colors of each daily temperature, which I thought was cool. This year was a drink shelf. And because of everything else that I had going on, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do, I'm probably not going to be great at keeping up with the temperature cell. And then she posted this, and I was like, all right. So she did temperature Space Invader chart. Yes. Yes. I am exactly this old. Space Invaders and Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and Asteroids and Centipede. Centipede was my game. Centipede was my favorite arcade video game. Asteroids is like, yeah, it was cool. Space Invaders was awesome. But Centipede, I would still play that. I've looked at those. They sell these consoles that have, like old, original 80s, arcade games on it. It's just like one more thing that would just take up space. Like, we don't need it. But anyway, when I saw this, I was like, this is cool. I'm doing it. So I'll start this at some point. I think I'm probably just going to use Black Ada. Maybe. Just to keep it simple. We'll see. The other thing I picked up, so Threadworks, this is overdyed cotton. I got this skein of Threadworks, and the reason that I did that is because I bought the 2022 Primitive Hair calendar. So I had last year's, and this is this year. And in March, there is that rainbow. There's like a, let's see, can you see it? It's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it has that cute rainbow. And it was like, whoa, what's that? So when I went in and looked at the called for flosses for each of these, this is what it was. And so I got this. So I'm excited, actually. I think I might do that coming up here pretty soon as one of my starts. And maybe, again, practice stitching in hand and with this little chart, because there's a lot of block color, a lot of just up and down. And so I think that's a good opportunity to practice at that for me. Now that I have these Zillion scroll frames, I'm still going to use those. They're still my preferred. But guys, this was super, super all over the place and super, super disjointed. And I'm going to have to go back in and look and see if I can even cobble together anything that makes sense. I have tried unsuccessfully a couple of times to express how I'm feeling about what's going on in Ukraine, and I can't come up with words that appropriately address the sadness and severity and awfulness that that they are going through, like many other countries that are, in turmoil. And I hope that this I hope it doesn't result in massive loss of life. But there's a lot of really, really strong people fighting for democracy, and I have the utmost respect, and I am going to be doing whatever I can, to help. And right now it's just figuring out what that is. And from here, it's just all I can do is just say that we love you and we don't like what's going on, and do whatever we can to try and help. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, and hopefully I will be able to make another video soon, and it won't go quite this long, and that maybe next time I'll actually be better at it. I don't know. So, for all of you out there, be safe, be nice to each other. That's huge right now. Just really do your best to be nice to each other, and have a happy day if you can. Bye.